Chapter 25. The gateway to every direction, manifested by Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. Thereupon arising from his seat with his right shoulder bared, Bodhisattva Akayamati faced the Buddha with his palms pressed together, and spoke thus to him, O Bhagavat. For what reason is Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, hearer of the sounds of the world, called Avalokitesvara? The Buddha answered Bodhisattva Akayamati, saying, O son of a virtuous family, if innumerable hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of sentient beings who experience suffering hear Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara and wholeheartedly chant his name, Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara will immediately perceive their voices and free them from their suffering. Even if those who hold to the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara were to enter a great fire, because of this Bodhisattva's transcendent power, the fire would not be able to burn them. If they were adrift on the great waters, by chanting his name, they would reach the shallows. There are hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of sentient beings who enter the great ocean to seek such treasures as gold, silver, lapis lazuli, mother of pearl, agate, coral, amber, and pearl. Even if a cyclone were to blow the ship of one of these toward the land of Rakasa demons, they would all become free from the danger of those Rakasa demons if there were even a single person among them who chanted the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. For this reason, he is called Avalokitesvara. If anyone who is about to be beaten chants the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, the sticks and swords will immediately be broken into pieces, and he will be delivered. If the yakas and rakasas, filling the great manifold cosmos, come with the intent to afflict the people but hear them chanting, those demons' evil eyes will be unable to see them, so how could they possibly hurt them? If anyone, whether guilty or innocent, is bound with fetters or chains, such bonds will be broken into pieces, and those who have been bound will become free by chanting the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. When a caravan leader travels on a dangerous road together with his fellow merchants, carrying precious treasures in a great manifold cosmos filled with evil robbers, if there be a single person who says, O sons of a virtuous family, do not fear. You should wholeheartedly chant the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. This Bodhisattva bestows fearlessness upon sentient beings. If you chant his name, you will be free from these evil robbers. Now, if those merchants chant loudly in unison, saying, Homage to Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, then, by chanting his name, the caravan will immediately gain deliverance. O Akayamati, the transcendent power of Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokitesvara is as great and mighty as this. If there are any sentient beings who are greatly subject to sensual desires, if they contemplate Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara with respect, they will become free from these desires. If there are any sentient beings who often become angry, if they contemplate Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara with respect, they will become free from anger. If there are any sentient beings who are greatly confused, if they contemplate Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara with respect, they will become free from their confusion. O Akayamati, thus Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara greatly benefits sentient beings through his transcendent power. For this reason, sentient beings should always turn their thoughts to him. If any woman wanting to have a baby boy pays homage and makes offerings to Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, she will bear a baby boy endowed with good merit and wisdom. If she wants to have a baby girl, she will bear a beautiful and handsome baby girl who has planted roots of good merit and will have the love of sentient beings. O Akayamati! Such are the transcendent powers of Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara that if any sentient being reverently respects him, the merit they achieve will never be in vain. For this reason, sentient beings should hold to the name of Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. O Akayamati! What do you think of someone who holds to the names of the Bodhisattvas equal in number to the sands of 62 kois of Ganges rivers and pays homage to them with drink and food, clothes, bedding, and medicine? Is the merit of this son or daughter of a virtuous family great or not? Akayamati answered, saying, O Bhagavat! It is great. The Buddha said, if there is anyone who holds to the name of Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara and anyone who pays homage to him and makes offerings even for a moment, the merit of these two people will be equal and the same. It will never be extinguished after hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of kalpas. O Akayamati! Those who hold to the name of Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara will attain such benefits of immeasurable and limitless merit. The Bodhisattva Akayamati addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat! How does Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara wander through this Saha world? How does he teach the Dharma for the sake of sentient beings? What of his power of skillful means? The Buddha said to Bodhisattva Akayamati, O son of a virtuous family, if there is any land where sentient beings are to be saved by the form of a Buddha, Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a Buddha. To those who are to be saved by the form of a Pratyabhadada, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a Pratyabhadada. To those who are to be saved by the form of a Sarvaka, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a Sarvaka. To those who are to be saved by the form of Brahma, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of Brahma. To those who are to be saved by the form of Sakra, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of Sakra. To those who are to be saved by the form of Aspara, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of Aspara. To those who are to be saved in the form of Mahaspara, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of Mahaspara. To those who are to be saved by the form of the great commander of the Devas, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of the great commander of the Devas. To those who are to be saved by the form of Vairava, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of Vairava. To those who are to be saved by the form of a minor king, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a minor king. To those who are to be saved by the form of a wealthy man, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a wealthy man. To those who are to be saved by the form of a householder, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a householder. To those who are to be saved by the form of a state official, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a state official. To those who are to be saved by the form of a Brahmin, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a Brahmin. To those who are to be saved by the form of a monk, nun, layman, or laywoman, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a monk, nun, layman, or laywoman. To those who are to be saved by the form of a wife of either a wealthy man, a householder, a state official, or a Brahmin, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of such a wife. To those who are to be saved by the form of a boy or a girl, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a boy or a girl. To those who are to be saved by the form of a human or of a non-human such as a Deva, Naga, Yaka, Gandharv, Asura, Garua, Kinara, or Maharaga, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into any of these forms. To those who are to be saved by the form of Vajrapi, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of Vajrapi. O Akayamati! This Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara displays such qualities, wanders through many lands in various forms, and saves sentient beings. For this reason, you should wholeheartedly pay homage to Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. This Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara bestows fearlessness in times of fearful calamity. For this reason, everybody in this Saha world calls him Abhayadada, giver of fearlessness. The Bodhisattva Akayamati addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavath, I shall now pay homage to Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. He then took from his neck a many-jeweled necklace worth hundreds of thousands of gold coins, gave it to him, and said, I entreat you to accept this rare jeweled necklace for the Dharma. At that time Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara did not dare to receive it. Akayamati addressed Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, I entreat you to accept this necklace out of pity for us. Then the Buddha said to Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, you should accept this necklace out of pity for such humans and non-humans as this Bodhisattva Akayamati, the fourfold assembly, Devas, Nagas, Yakas, Gandharvas, Asuras, Garuas, Kinaras, and Maharagas. The Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara accepted the necklace out of pity for the fourfold assembly, Devas, Nagas, humans, non-humans, and the rest. He then divided it into two parts and gave one part to the Buddha Sakyamuni and the other part to the stupa of the Buddha Prabhudaratna. O Akayamati! With such inherent transcendent powers Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara wanders throughout the Saha world. Thereupon, Bodhisattva Akayamati asked a question in verse, saying, O Bhagavath, endowed with excellent marks, I now wish to ask you about him once again. For what reason is the heir of the Buddha named Avalokiteshvara? The Bhagavath, endowed with excellent marks, answered Akayamati in verse, listen to the practices of Avalokiteshvara, which have their application to all. His vow is deep like the ocean, and his kalpa is of inconceivable length. After having attended many thousands of kois of Buddhas, he made a great, pure vow. I will now explain it to you in brief. If you hear his name and see his body, and contemplate him in thought, your life will not be in vain, and you will extinguish all suffering. If anyone wants to hurt you and pushes you into a great fire pit, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, the fire pit will change into a pond. If you drift upon the great ocean and meet danger from dragons, fish, and demons, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, you will not be swallowed by the waves. If you are on the peak of Sumeru and are pushed by somebody, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, you will stay suspended in the air like the sun. If any evil one chases you and pushes you from Mount Diamond, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, not even a single hair will be hurt. If evil robbers surround you each with a sword and the intent to harm, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, the thought of mercy will awaken in them. If you suffer under the punishment of a king and your life is to be ended by execution, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, the sword will be immediately broken into pieces. If you are imprisoned with a neck chain, your hands and feet fettered, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, they will disappear and you will be released. If anyone wants to hurt your body with a curse or poison, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, these ills will return and afflict their authors. If you meet evil rakshasas, poisonous dragons, or demons, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, they will not dare to hurt you. If you are surrounded by evil animals whose teeth and claws are fearfully sharp, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, they will run away swiftly and to an immeasurable distance. If there are lizards, snakes, vipers, or scorpions, whose breath is poisonous like a flaming smoke, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, they will turn away swiftly at the sound of your voice. If thunder resounds, lightning flashes, hail falls, and a great rain pours out of the clouds, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, they will disappear immediately. If sentient beings are in great adversity, and immeasurable pain afflicts them, the wonderful power of the wisdom of Avalokiteshvara can relieve the suffering of the world. Endowed with transcendent powers, and having fully mastered wisdom and skillful means, in all the worlds of the 10 directions, there is no place where he will not manifest himself. The suffering of those in the troubled states of being, hell-dwellers, hungry ghosts, and animals, and the suffering of birth, old age, illness, and death will gradually be extinguished. He who perceives the world with truth, purity, and vast knowledge, and with benevolence and compassion, should be ever longed for and looked up to. He is a spotless pure ray of light, a sun of wisdom that destroys the darkness, a flame that withstands the winds of calamity. He brilliantly illuminates the entire world. His will, the essence of which is compassion, shakes like thunder, and the mind of mercy is like a beautiful overspreading cloud, which pours the Dharma rain of immortality and extinguishes the flame of desires. In a dispute before judges, or fearful in the midst of battle, if you contemplate the power of Avalokiteshvara, all enemies will flee away. He has a wondrous voice, the voice of one who perceives the world, a voice like Brahma's, a voice like the rolling tide, a voice unsurpassed in this world. For this reason you should always contemplate him. You should have no doubt, even for a moment. The pure seer Avalokiteshvara will be a refuge when suffering distress or the misery of death. He is endowed with every quality, sees the sentient beings with his benevolent eyes, and his ocean of merit is immeasurable. For this reason you should pay him homage. At that time, Bodhisattva Duradhara arose from his seat, went before the Buddha and said to him, O Bhagavat, if there are any sentient beings who hear of this chapter, Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, and these effortless deeds, the manifestation of the gateway to all directions, and the transcendent powers, know that their merit will not be little. When the Buddha taught the chapter, the gateway to every direction, the thought of incomparable highest, complete enlightenment awoke in 84,000 sentient beings in the assembly.